So recording is in progress. So, so welcome everyone. Oh my goodness. I'm surprised that, I was like, oh, like every day I was checking the registrations. And, as for those of you, can you raise your hand for any of you who actually who actually came to the business coaching today? It's down at the bottom. You can do the react button and just do a thumb. I guess it's a thumbs up. Oh, you can do a raise a hand if you were at that. So that was wonderful. It was a really wonderful afternoon. I imagine you, just like me, were like, oh my God, I'm starting a 3-day conference with a 3-hour time in my seat. That must have been a bit challenging, like it was for me, but it was definitely worth it. And what I was thinking about is that idea of like when I first started, finding out how could I know whether how many people have signed up. And I kept on going back to, I was like, when I figured that out, I kept on going back to the Zoom. You can't go to the one on your laptop. You have to actually go to the website. But then I could see how many people were showing up, like how many people had responded. And I was like, oh my God, like, there was like 25, I think, at the first time. And the next time I looked, there were like 32. And the next time I looked, it was like, so anyway, we can't be looking for outside, praise or recognition for the work that we do. I believe that everyone here, from photo managers to photographers to artists to community builders, which all of us are, and artists and creatives, our inspiration, our why is very much connected to creating connections and honoring this crazy thing called life. That we are honored to have the opportunity that so many people don't have to be here. And to also, for photo managers and personal historians, specifically, we have an amazing opportunity to honor and celebrate our clients' lives, but hopefully that also informs our lives as well, in honoring and celebrating our lives. So I welcome you for tonight's edition of Show and Tales. I know that some of you I saw in Denver in person. Imagine such a thing. Hey, yes. Yes. Oh my God. I got a few hugs. Internet friends are real friends. That's been my favorite hashtag lately, because there's many of you that I've met only online. And I am grateful for those who I have met in person and gotten a chance to hug and hear your stories. And I'm looking forward to the future travels, and that I may end up getting a chance to see a lot of you, maybe not all of you, but a lot of you in person as I continue my 5-month road trip. But without further ado, I do know that I have several people who have said, like, we're all busy professionals, busy parents and professionals. We're just busy people. And so I know that there are several people that really needed to get up and on the stage early. So I'm just going to welcome you to Show and Tales. This is one of my 24 different themes, and it's called Significant Objects. So my themes like literally pop into my brain out of nowhere, and or out of somewhere, and I just write them down. I came up with this concept of significant objects about 5 years ago. And 2 weeks later, I had a friend sit down with me at dinner and say, "Oh, have you heard of the book called Significant Objects?" And I'm like, "No." So anyway, I love this topic because obviously it means that you can bring anything and tell its story. And that is the beautiful part of this, is that you can show any object. And of course, it works hand in hand with my friend and fellow traveler on this search of the things that matter and the stories that get tied to these things that matter. Bill Shapiro and his partner Naomi Wax, and their book, What We Keep. So the question that he asked over 150 people during the process of writing his book, their book, was, what thing brings you joy, magic, and meaning? So that is the focus of this evening's story sharing event. I call it story sharing because there's a few people who probably shared their stories many times. And I love that you're here and that you've had this chance. But I know there are several people who have not shared their stories in a very long time, maybe elementary school when they were part of Show and Tell, but they haven't had a chance to do that lately. And it might be a little unnerving, as Cathi was talking about today. So I welcome you. Nothing has to be, it doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't have to be a well thought out, well planned thing. Just show the object, and I will permit screen sharing for multiple people, or maybe Melissa will, but you can share your screen to show the object if you don't have the physical object with you that you can show, and we'll spotlight you. But I know for certain that Dion has a meeting coming up soon after this. So I wanted to, and I was delighted to be able to, she was the first stop, the first person that I got a chance to see on my road trip. In Lubbock. And so I'm going to spotlight her and have her take us away with starting our show and tell. Welcome, Dion.
All right. Thank you, Marty. It's good to see you and see everybody again. I was thinking about what I might share for my show and tell, and I came up with this planter. Okay.
Oh,
so this planter was brought to me when I was born at the hospital in Fort Worth. And then my mom hung on to it for many years until she brought it to me when I had my firstborn. And I was thinking about this and how significant it was, because I think my mom must have been a storyteller, photo historian, memory keeper before we even knew what it was, because she hung on to this. And the other story that I have that has to do with my childhood is that when there was a big tornado here in Lubbock, Texas in 1970, my mom says that she took me and my baby book to the cellar. So that was her priorities as to what needed to be saved were me and the baby book. So I guess this was safe inside the house somewhere. But this little planter had an ivy in it when it was brought to the hospital. And then she kept it until I had my first child. And then she took it from Texas to Florida and put an ivy in it and brought it to me at the hospital, or not the hospital, but I was already home by then. But, brought it to me when she came to see us and the baby. And then I had it for a while. And then we moved back to Texas. And then I had twins. And so she's like, well, I can't bring one planter. So she got these two little planters. Okay. So, and it says, God gives me grow power. So I have little twin planters for them.
Oh.
And then when my daughter was born, she got this back from my house and then put an ivy in it for her. So before I ever thought about doing anything with memory keeping, I think she was already doing it. And she's been one of my biggest fans and biggest supporters throughout this whole journey. So I thought that would be a neat thing to share.
Oh, that was so wonderful, Dion. Thank you so much. Thank you. I adore that. And do you know that there are quite a few mothers of twins in the photo managers?
I have met several. Yes, I think so, that
Cathi,
the case.
Cathi Stone, and also Jordan. I know
Uh-huh.
for sure. I don't know if there's any others, but I was like, oh my God, I didn't know that part of your story.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Well, I thought that would be neat to share. So
thank you so much. Thank you for starting us off. Thank
you for having me. I'm going to stick around for a little while longer, but I'll have to watch the recording of the last bit.
Okay. All right. Thanks again for starting us off. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. So let's see. So I think my friend Renee Beth is also needed to leave, had another meeting after this. This is what all our movers and shakers in this community. We've got so many things happening. So, but I think that, let's see, I am going to, let's see, can I find Renee? Renee, I know you're here because I saw that. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to spotlight you and then I'll see you. There you are. I'm learning this Zoom thing.
That's awesome. You're doing a great job.
Needless to say, I met Renee through a wonderful woman, a friend of mine for about 10 years, named Barbara Ann Michaels, who is a performance artist, I just learned a new term, a social, what is it called? A social something artist. So it's about people who create, who their life's mission, their why. I mean, that's why I love this community so much, is that we talk about our whys. You know, Cathi talks about whys. What is our why? And what I found from Renee is her why is creating space for people to build deep connections. And needless to say, that is also my why. And so I am just delighted. She is not part of the photo managers, but she is someone who definitely loves and supports the work that we do, the legacy work, the legacy artistry that we do. And that's why I thought it was a perfect opportunity to invite her here to share her story. So take it away, Renee.
Oh, thank you so much. It's a great pleasure to be here. And yeah, I'm excited about the story that I'm going to share with you about an object. And this is Annie. This is Annie Cheerlump. Say hi, Annie. Hi, everyone. How are you? Yes. So Annie Cheerlump was designed. I had this idea. I'm a puppet kind of, puppeteer. I'd like to be, but the idea is, I have an organization called Living the Potential, livingthepotential.com, and it's an intergenerational learning community where children can be seen and heard. And I wrote a book about, what children have to teach us, and it's called Living the Potential, Engaging the Wisdom of Our Youth to Save the World. And in there, I tell my story about how I met a group of youth, and they shared, they were project managers around 8, 9, and 10, and they learned how to manage their learning environment. And I got to partner with them, and this was back in the early 90s. And then I thought, you know what? It's never too late to have a first childhood. Somehow or another, I grew up. I was the firstborn and grew up. I think I was the old soul to my family. And part of the journey is when you're helping, my mission is to help youth be seen and heard. And where's that coming from? It's because as a youth, I wasn't seen and heard. So I have quite an interesting community of facilitators and youth advisors. And they say, hey, Renee Beth, it's never too late to have a first childhood. So I reflected back on my childhood. And when I was around 11 and 12 years old, I was in school trying to make friends with everybody, and it didn't matter what clique or anybody was in. It was the jocks, it was the nerds, it was the potheads, it was, the normal cliques that schools have. But I assumed a persona that I created in my bedroom, and it was called Annie Cheerlump. Annie Cheerlump. So anyway, this is kind of a picture of me as a younger person with the pigtails, with headphones. I traveled with a little tape recorder. It's supposed to be glued to the hands here, but they fell out, this little recorder. Anyway, Annie Cheerlump would interview people and find out their story and find ways in which they could all be connected. So my community, the culture I created, they go, we need to have a program where we help people bring forward their inner child. So, she's got the cool shoes on and all this, Living the Potential logo. And by the way, this was designed by a 12-year-old, because youth entrepreneurs want to make a difference and be seen and heard, right? Right? Yeah. So we just want to say hi and thanks for listening. And what if we had a time, what do you think? Yeah, Marty, what if we had an opportunity to have everyone bring forward their inner child and talk about who we are becoming, that little soul that came into our bodies and we're emanating, no matter what age we are, we have a story to tell. Anyway, that's my object. Thank you so much.
See, I was muted just because there's noise in here. And I'm in El Paso, Texas, by the way, right at the moment. I'm still in Texas. Yes, Clinton, I'm still in Texas. It's a big state. They aren't kidding. Thank you so much. Oh, Renee, I had no idea of that. How deeply we have so much in common there. So yes, I was always called an old soul as well, always growing up. And I also ended up, I moved 9 times before high school. My father was in the Air Force. I was born in Okinawa. And then I moved not with the military, but with General Electric. And so I also had that feeling of like, I can connect with different groups. So jocks, I called them freaks. So jocks and freaks. Like I didn't like cliques. I just like to connect with different people. So that's amazing. And of course, that I was a high school biology teacher in New York City for 8.5 years, and loved the kids. It was the administration that finally made me step
Exactly.
back.
Well, I think it's the youth voices. It's like, who are we becoming? And you look back on your childhood. We do lots of exercises around that and reflecting back. And it's really interesting because in our community, we've got, youth between the ages of 13 and 25, and then adults of all ages learning together to bring forward their authenticity and that voice that many times was squelched because it wasn't part of the curriculum or, the part of the programming that we've all been through that we don't realize until later in life. And we go, wait a second, what if I could live my own life? Like my sister said, it's okay to be full of yourself because everyone else is taken, it's kind of like, so it's okay. It's okay.
Be full of yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
I
So creating a puppet where I can be my silly me. I want to do more with that. So Marty, maybe we could do another show related to the puppets or your inner child, however it shows up in your life. All right. Thanks so much for having me. I wish I could stay the whole time.
Yes.
And I want to learn more about photo managers. So
yes, I know. Aren't these amazing people, Renee? So they help you and anybody I know you have a community. So anyone who has a challenge with all their photos and all the things that they save that have stories, these are the people who can help you. Like you can look online at the photo managers, and in every state and a lot more countries now. We have one person in Poland, I found out today, but we've got a couple in Netherlands and a couple in Australia. And of course we have some personal historians as well that are on this call, but please feel free to drop in the chat information about how people can find you. And same thing with you, Dion, if you're still on, please, I've been connecting people to Dion for, since we met. So I love making, we're master connectors. So please feel free to do that. All right. So thank you so much, Renee. And I think that I had also told Clinton that, like I'd get you on the earlier side of things. So without further ado, my good friend, Clinton Havey, I just learned how to, I learned 5 seconds before I had to introduce Bill Shapiro, a year ago, that it's not, he doesn't pronounce it Shapiro, it's Shapiro. So 5 seconds before I was introducing him, I was like, oh my God. So anyway, it's not Havey. It is.
No,
Havey.
it is Havey. Yeah.
It's not Habby. And I used to say Habby. So anyway, I am grateful to have gotten a chance to connect with Clinton in person when I was passing through San Antonio, a week ago. And yes, I'm still in Texas, but I know Clinton through the association, the old Association of Personal Historians, APH, which was alive and well for 22 years. Unfortunately, many associations, including APH, folded because of the online learning environment that happened. There was just a lot that we weren't able to keep it afloat. But there's plenty of people who are doing legacy films like Clinton is, memoir writing, oral history, legacy artwork. There's plenty of us still available. And even among the photo managers, we've got a few people who were members of APH before it folded. So please know that we're here always. And so, but take it away, Clinton, and you can show the object that brings you joy, magic, and meaning.
Yeah, no, thank you for the intro. And yeah, despite APH folding, we did not fold. We're still here and we're still kicking tail, right? So yeah, I'm Clinton Havey. In 2009, I started story keeping, and I do legacy films for people. So people hire me to interview their parents or grandparents, and I make a movie about their lives. And the object that I'm going to be talking about today is a motion picture filter. And it's not really the thing so much that's important, it's what this thing does. But to give a little bit of context, I'm going to go back in time to 2009. Actually, in 2 weeks, I'm going to celebrate 13 years in business of doing story keeping. So I'm excited about that. But okay, so when I first started story keeping, I was straight audio. I had a background in radio. And so I loved audio editing, but I was not a filmmaker. But I had these potential clients telling me, you know, I love the idea of what you're doing, but I really want to be able to see, you know, into my dad's eyes when he tells that story. And I really want to see my mom's hands flying around when she talks, because that's who she is. You need to capture that. So I had to learn how to become a filmmaker, which is a somewhat daunting task when you're already starting a business that no one has ever heard of the industry before. It was one heck of an uphill battle. But I guess as a result of that, I had this blessing and curse of imposter syndrome just right out of the gate, that drove me to get better and better at what I did all the time. And so just through the years, I kept working at it, and I kept getting better, and I kept getting better. And as I grew my skill set, I grew in my own willingness to try new things. And so that's what I selected this motion picture filter for. So this thing, it's a hunk of glass. That's all it is. It's just a thing, right? But it's a $500 hunk of glass. It's super expensive, and it's used on movie sets. And it's a symbol of my growth, right? That I was willing and able to be able to implement something like this into my workflow with confidence. And it's a symbol of where I am today. And I'm so proud of that, right? To take it one step further, it is, what is it? It's, I think it's like National Poetry Month. And so it's a bit of a metaphor, but this piece of glass, it's not perfect. It has a bunch of little dots inside of it, these imperfections that, I mean, y'all are photo managers, you know, photos, it's light, you know, it's captured light is what photography is. And so what these little dots do is they slightly diffuse the light in such a way that people's wrinkles maybe don't look as wrinkly, and people end up looking their absolute most beautiful, best, handsome selves as a result of me putting this little hunk of glass between them and my camera. So what's really poetic to me is that my willingness to introduce imperfections enables me to capture people at their most beautiful and as their most real selves. So, yep, Clinton Havey, story keeping, filter.
I love that. Filter.
I thought you might.
That is wonderful. I still want to know, because my ring and your logo have so much in common.
Ooh.
But I'm going to start a YouTube channel, and I'm going to be interviewing you to get that story. But I think I need that. I need you, and I need that filter.
I've got 10
of wrinkles.
We'll stack the filters if you want, you know.
Oh my goodness. Oh wow. So I was so grateful in the last, like, what was it, 5 years of the the personal historians APH that we met.
Amen.
And yeah, it's just so grateful, and so grateful to have this opportunity to you know, meet you in person and talk about doing a virtual show and tell, or perhaps a in-person one at some day, maybe even a Viking River cruise.
Oh my God, yes.
We've got ideas. So
Amen,
anyway, yeah. We've got ideas. So thank you so much, Clinton. I just love, and you know, we're learning about language, right? Like in terms of what we call ourselves, right? So I know that when I started doing my work, in New York City, I could not call myself a scrapbooker. as much as I love scrapbooking and I love the profession, the craft of scrapbooking, nobody was able, in New York City, they were not able to recognize the fact that we've been scrapbooking in this country for over 100 years. So it does not mean sticker stamps and glitter glue and, circular, cutting out photos. It doesn't mean that. It means a beautiful way to showcase a life. Instead of the photo books where you all have to put everything in, horizontally or vertically, you're told you have to do it a certain way. In a scrapbook, the beauty is you can put in anything in certain ways, but you have to, that's what I learned about language. And so with Clinton, just in my last visit with him last week, I learned that instead of calling himself a video biographer, which I've always, not a videographer, I always called people who did his line of work video biography, because I thought that elevated it in a way. But as we know with photographers, and the challenge that so many beautiful, amazing photographers have had over the last decade is that everybody says that they're a photographer now, right? And so, or a visual storyteller. And needless to say, I take photos, we all take photos. I will never call myself a photographer. But anyway, I love the fact that Clinton ended up encouraging me to think about calling him a legacy artist or a legacy filmmaker. But thank you so much. And with a perfect segue into our next story sharer. We all know him through the photo managers. He is, a phenomenal part of a colleague of ours and an amazing photographer. So without further ado, I want to bring to the stage Peter Bennett, our very own Peter Bennett. Yay.
Thank you, Marty. It's quite an introduction. Thank you. It's wonderful to be here. I have never done this before. And so, of course, I decided to try something completely different. And if it works,
like you did at the conference, Peter, go for it.
Thank you. Pushing the limits. But if it works, it's going to be a lot of fun. And if it doesn't, you can throw things at the screen. So I started doing this kind of self-guided meditation. And the place I do it is a place, Marty may even know it, it's a place I spent my childhood summers called Fire Island. It's kind of a barrier island. It's beautiful. It's just kind of a giant sandbar with grass and some trees and basically old boardwalks that kind of connect everything. You could walk across it in about 5 minutes usually. And I spent all my summers there. And the object that I wanted to show has some really important meaning to me. And it's very tied in with Fire Island. So I thought I would do a very abridged version of this guided meditation and kind of take you to the object. So let's kind of see how this works. And
I love it.
And again,
yes.
So I'm just going to ask everybody, this works best if you close your eyes. So close your eyes, kind of let me guide you through this. Sit in your chair, put your feet on the floor and take a deep breath. And I'm going to close my eyes too. And imagine we're going to take a walk on the beach and we're going to start at the top of a staircase. It's a wooden staircase. It's been bleached by the sun, just kind of shades of gray. And we're going to look out over this beautiful beach. It's kind of a late morning and the sun is still low in the sky and it's warm. And all you can hear is kind of the lapping of the surf on the beach, kind of an arrhythmic lapping, and you hear the seagulls chirping. And to the right and to the left is nothing but beach, and then we're on top of a short dune, and it's kind of you see little proliferations of beach grass kind of interspersed between the dunes and the ripples that have made by the wind. And we're going to walk down these stairs and we're going to walk to the shoreline. past the soft sand, and then past where the high tide brings up all the ocean flotsam of seaweed and driftwood and assorted carcasses and plastic bottles. And then we're going to go right down to the water. And it's a gentle kind of surf today, and we stick our feet in, and it's warm, and we just kind of get our feet a little wet. And then we're going to walk to the left a bit. We're going to start walking, and it's just beach and dunes and surf as far as you can see. And we're going to walk down there because one of the things we're going to do is do a little beach combing today. And as we walk, the sandpipers kind of run away and they do their dance with the surf as it comes up. But they part as we kind of walk, and we're just kind of looking down. We see shells, and we see beach glass, which is broken pieces of glass that have been almost glazed by their time in the ocean. They're soft and round, not soft, but they're round and easy to the touch. And we're just looking for things. Maybe we pick up a few shells and a few pieces of beach glass and stick them in our pockets. And we walk a little further, and we see this little object. We see this wood, this little piece of driftwood. And it's small, maybe a foot long. And we notice its shape. It's shaped like a bird, almost like a blue jay or a cardinal, kind of been molded by the surf over the years. It's kind of smooth, and there's something about it, something compelling. So we pick it up, and we just kind of walk with it as we hold it. And then we walk another 100 feet or so, and we see another piece of driftwood. It's kind of shaped like a Y, and it looks like a perch where this bird might perch itself. And we pick that up, and we look at these two pieces of driftwood that we found right near each other. And there's something about them that we feel compelled to keep, and we walk back with them, and these become our keepsakes. And so you can open your eyes now. And basically that was my mother's kind of beach combing in 1960, where we were living at the time. And she loved beach combing. And so this is the object that she found. And you can see that it's, well, if I get it in there,
Yep.
it's got a little Y, and it's got the bird.
Oh
and
my
she
God.
loved this more than anything. Now, she passed away last July. She was 99 years old.
Oh
And
my God.
she kept telling me the last month, she knew she was going. She was like, Peter, whatever you do, make sure you know about the bird, right? And I'm like, yes, Mom, I know about the bird. I've known about this bird my whole life, right? It's always prominently been featured in her home, whether she was there back in New York or out here when I moved her to LA. And, she was fully cognizant even at 99. And the reason she asked me is because it was so important. She wanted to make sure I understood. And of course I did, because I knew that more than anything in the world, this crazy little piece of driftwood that she found on the beach meant more than anything to her. And she wanted me to have it and to pass it on. So, this is it, and kind of give it that was kind of like an analog virtual reality tour. So I kind of hope it was interesting, and I hope I thought it'd be interesting to take the journey to kind of find this thing that happened 60 years ago. Thank you.
Oh, Peter, that was so wonderful. I could feel, I honestly, I'm grateful enough to have been to Fire Island several times in my life. So I could see all of it, and I could feel it, and I could feel it on my skin, and I could hear it. And you did an amazing job at making me kind of feel the sense of being in your mom's footsteps, and
that was good.
you did a great job. Thank you. And same with your workshop, which I know is going to be repeated this week, the next couple of days. So I encourage you. And yes, I know that Melissa has put in, my good friend has put in information about your website, but also check out the event, that the workshop that Peter is going to be leading as part of the virtual Photo Managers Conference. Do you have anything to add to that, Peter?
No, I think it's Friday. It's I think 11 a.m. Pacific time, and 2 p.m. I normally talk about technology and photography. I've been a photographer for more decades than I care to count. But this is a little out of my comfort zone, which is what the whole topic is. It's about, it's about overcoming limiting beliefs. So I'm doing my Tony Robbins impersonation and but trying to make it my own and related to what we as photo managers, photo archivists, and photo organizers do. It's for people who are, starting a business or anything. And so we have fun, and join me there.
Yeah, I went to your event in person in Denver, and yes, it's it's really important for us to step out of our comfort zones. If we are business owners, which all of us are in one way or another, there's some people here who aren't necessarily, but who've joined us tonight, but most of everyone is a business owner, and we're constantly provided opportunities to step out of our comfort zone. So check it out. If you are part of the photo managers, if you registered for the virtual event. And as far as I know, you could still sign up for the snapshot pass. If maybe, I don't know, Isabel asked about whether I was recording it, and I am. So I don't know if it's still available, but if it is, you can see all the keynotes, which includes my friend Sky Bergman, my hopefully new friend Eric Kissels, and also Cathi Nelson, of course, is going to be one of the keynotes. And so, yes, I think Isabel said, yes, it's still available. So there is a $49 registration fee for this snapshot pass that gets you into all the keynotes and one presentation. And I would highly recommend Peter's, but it's hard to choose one other event. It's impossible to choose one other event, but there's plenty of opportunities for networking and learning about what the photo managers. There is a field of photo management because, hey, do we all have a little too many photos in here, let alone in a box or a bag or a suitcase or a storage unit or an attic or a basement? So anyway, check it out if you're interested, and Isabel put it in the chat. All right, so I think that I am going to move on to, because I can see her, I'm going to move on to Cheryl, my friend Cheryl, who is like the only quote unquote oddball. And yes, her her signature on her email is what you've got to explain it yourself, Cheryl. I'm going to give you the floor, and you've got to explain it, because when I saw it, I just said, she's my kindred spirit. So please come off mute if you can. Oh, what's going on? There you go.
I'm sorry, I'm totally unprepared.
Oh,
I
I'm
didn't know
so
you were going to call me.
but sorry.
But I can pull it up quickly.
Oh,
here it
good.
is.
And what is your what is your sign off, your signature on your emails that made me just die?
Yeah, that's what I was just looking up.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
You're gonna pick it. You're gonna pick it up.
It's Namaskray, Namascray, which of course is, a takeoff on Namaste. And then it says, the crazy in me recognizes and honors the crazy in you.
All right.
Namaskray.
And with that, Namaskray. And with that, take it away, Cheryl.
Okay. I guess.
Sorry, I've got to do better at telling people when they're up. So
you know what? You did ask me, and then I thought, oh my goodness, there's so many people here.
we're
anyway. I'll do
it's
the
a safe
thing.
place here, Cheryl. You know it. So
I
met Cheryl through, if any of you have not heard of it yet, I know I've been talking about it. It's called Get Set Up. And for some reason it's getsetup.io. I don't know what the IO stands for. Maybe somebody else can tell me. But anyway, it's a learning and connection building community that I am hosting events called Our Stuff, Our Stories. And my last event was about old, new, and borrowed and blue. And so Cheryl's gonna take us away with this beautiful little slideshow she created.
Okay, can you see it?
Yes.
Great, because I learned how to do slideshows about a month ago, but after I created them, I didn't realize that there was a whole learning thing about how to call them up while you're doing a Zoom session. And that just was such a challenge to me.
Well, and that's why Get Set Up is around, right?
Yes, yes. Okay, here's something that I'm afraid to let that go. I would love to show you the object first, but I'm afraid if I do that I'll lose what's here. Okay, 52 years ago, my husband and I got married. And we were from families that, you know, they were working class families. They didn't have a lot of money. And he and I had just finished college. We met at college and we had worked for like half a semester. We were both working in schools. And we had a little bit of money that we could put toward a wedding. I didn't expect much money from my parents, and I didn't get much money from my parents. But I got $100 allocated from my dad for buying a wedding gown. And then a little later, he gave us another check for $100 for a wedding. Anybody that's done a wedding in the past 52 years knows that $100 doesn't get you very far. Now, the reason I said all that is that this dress it cost $100 and it was from a wedding and bridal store, but it was not a wedding dress. It was a bridesmaid's dress. And it was you can see the colors, little off-white, I call it ecru. And it was far less expensive than, you know, a traditional wedding dress. And you'll notice that my bouquet is made out of daisies. And we didn't have a florist. My two apartment mates, who are still very close friends after all these years, were my bridesmaids. We lived together. So we got up that morning and we went to the pancake kitchen. And then we stopped at the florist. We didn't order ahead of time or anything. We just picked a bunch of different colored daisies. And I had bought some ribbon at the craft store and just tied them together. And that was our bouquet. We also didn't have a photographer because even back then they were expensive. We had a friend who had a camera and he took our pictures for us. And now I'm going to, our reception was in the church basement and we were having tea sandwiches and punch. The woman who was making our tea sandwiches didn't show up. So we did have some cookies and we had punch. It was a fairly small wedding. And I have a feeling that once we got in the car and left for our honeymoon, that some people probably talked about our wedding in that we didn't have real food. Okay, and these are my bridesmaids there. That kind of flowered gown was very popular back then. And this is my husband's brother.
Oh,
And this, you can see my cursor, right?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
This guy was Joe's college roommate, and Betty was one of my roommates all through college, and they're married to each other. And we're
Oh,
still close friends. Okay, so that's just, I think that was right after the wedding ceremony. Now, fast forward, let's see, about 42 years, I created from the skirt of that wedding gown 5 flower girl baskets for my daughter's wedding. And there I am with my glue gun. It's the only kind of gun I'll allow in my house. And okay, there are the 5 little girls that were in my daughter's wedding 20 years ago. They're all college graduates now with
Oh my
real
God.
jobs.
Oh my God.
And this little guy, he didn't come to the rehearsal, and I won't even tell you how his performance was at the actual wedding. Okay, then 10 years ago, my second daughter got married, and she had 4 flower girls, and they carried the same baskets.
Oh.
We won't even talk about that one. This was from one of those kiosks that was set up in a mall where you go and they put a costume on you. And, you know, we just thought it was really funny. Those of you who have ever been to Niagara Falls know about the Niagara Falls culture. You know that it's where people, like lots of people, used to go for their honeymoon.
Yes.
And, you know, I live in Pittsburgh and it's only 5 hours away. And this daughter, who was 3 at that time, told her grandma that we were going to Niagara Falls for the weekend. And Grandma Rose said, "Oh, are you going on your honeymoon?" You know, just to be funny. So this little one went to daycare the next day, and she said, "We're going to Niagara Falls on our honeymoon." So when we saw this booth, we said, okay, we have to do this. And it's ironic how much this fake wedding dress, which was, you know, slit all the way down the back, and you just kind of walked into it, looked like my
Yours?
$100
Really?
wedding dress. Yeah.
Oh my
Okay,
God.
so now I stop share. Okay, and then
Look at you. Look at you doing that.
yeah, look at me. So this is the one of the 5 baskets. It's nothing special, but you know, I went to Joanne Fabric and got these little sparkly things, and the little girls carried them, and both of the marriages have lasted, and there are children from those marriages, which means I have 5 grandchildren, and maybe when they get married, they'll use the baskets.
Oh.
Thank you for listening.
Oh.
That's my something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue story.
Right. It's a significant, they're significant objects. So yes,
Yeah.
and it's been delightful. I have been spending the last couple of months every other week being able to hang out with Cheryl. So who's another friend in Pittsburgh. I'm like, oh my God, you know, what is it about Austin and Pittsburgh? It's like I like have, you know, like collected a whole bunch of friends in both places.
Well,
I'm very lucky.
Anybody who's over 50 or can pass for it. Remember when we used to get fake driver's licenses to get into bars?
Yes.
You can join Get Set Up. You name a topic.
Exactly.
You name a topic, there's a class, there's a group, and it is a fantastic platform. Everything is free. And when I saw Marty's class, I looked at it and I thought, that's what I want to do. And I'm not, because I have my own little group. My group is called Reminiscing. And we hang out on Friday nights at 7 o'clock and we reminisce about some funny things and some tender things and just
some not so funny things.
Yeah.
All of it, life. So definitely check it out. And Cheryl, please pop that in the
I
chat
did
as
way
well.
up.
Okay, but you might
Way
have
up.
to pop in it now because people will look when you're
Okay.
So
Okay.
Melissa is put in the get set up, and there's like hundreds of classes. And if you want to teach one, you want to teach a class, they're looking for people to offer classes too. So please check it out.
There are over 1 million members.
All around the world, all different
Mhm.
times. A bunch of the classes that I've wanted to take are like at 6 o'clock in the morning or at midnight. And, because they're all across the world. And we've got people all from all over the place here in at the Photo Managers too. So anyway, thank you so much, Cheryl, for that.
Thank you for
I love
letting
that
me.
second photo because I didn't see the one with your bridesmaid stuff. That was really cool that you didn't
Aw.
show last week. So thank you for sharing that. All right, so
Whoops.
I think that we have up next, if I can, have Teresa, if you would like to come up and share the thing that brings you joy, magic, and meaning.
Okay. A little backstory going back to the early 70s. My cousin lived across the street and she was 4 years older and more like my sister. And one day she came to me with this great idea, and it was a great idea. She said, for 1 cent, we could get 12 record albums. Great idea. Some of you know what I'm going to say. So I would get 6 and she would get 6. And we decided to use my mailing address because I had a post office box and she had a mailbox. So it was best to use the post office box. Well, sometime later, my dad came home for lunch and yelled out my name. And I knew that tone. It wasn't good. What did I do? I walk in the kitchen and there in his hand is the Columbia Record Club box. It had arrived. And I couldn't understand why he would be so upset. And I explained the deal. But he knew the whole deal. Because every month after that, we would receive a postcard in the mail. And if we didn't send it in, I would get the record of the month for $5.95 plus shipping. So my record collection grew and grew. It was amazing. For over a year, maybe 2 years, my record collection grew until my parents finally sat down and figured out how to put it into the party. So backing up, since my cousin was 4 years older and she was more into the record scene than I was, she helped me cultivate my music. So she said, well, since you like the screaming music, we'll pick Aretha Franklin and Janis Joplin. Love Janis Joplin. And oh my goodness, if you've never heard the best drum solo ever, TNUC on Grand Funk Live, check it out. And then on the calmer side, she chose like Jim Croce and James Taylor and Carole King. And for some of you will get this, that my business name is Tapestry. And when I started my business, this name just came up instantly for me. I mean, Janis Joplin and Carole King were probably the two most played albums, and still is. I still play my albums. But you know, I started out as the, you know, personal historian, where I first came in contact with Marty, and you know, my mission is just to help people tell and preserve their life stories. And so the tapestry song just kept running through my head. You know, my life is but a tapestry of rich and royal hue. I looked it up. It really means nothing. She just put together a string of beautiful words, but it's a great song, and it became my name. And then later I became a member of APO. And so I like to say that my tapestry has become a true weaving of stories and photos.
Oh my God. I love that album too, Teresa. Yeah. So do you know, as I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of us that have twins, like a lot of the photo managers who have twins. The other thing that I've noted is that there's a lot of us who have horses, or have horses in our life, our upbringing, you know, our connection, and even you know, asses. Which is also part of her story. She's got.
You thought I would bring my donkey.
She's got a cute.
I've tucked him in bed. He's in bed now.
You've got to read her blog if you want to know a little bit more about her sweet ass. But and that's
him every morning.
I'm thinking, isn't that an oxymoron, a sweet ass? Because some of them are really not at all.
Oh, he's adorable.
He is adorable.
You gotta come see him, Marty.
I've met him. He's adorable. Anyway.
Oh, he was here? Oh, I didn't know he was here when you came.
Yes. I'm lucky. I have.
Oh, that's right. We had just gotten him. It was in 2020. He's a pandemic donkey.
Yeah. And remember our pandemic photos? Like we were 6 feet apart. Yeah. That I just put, it was like a memory, you know, from that came up. I was like, oh my God. So yes, I met your sweet ass. But
I ask Teresa a question?
Yeah, I think so. Why not?
I'm assuming that you know this about tapestries, but have you heard the analogy that the beautiful, perfect stitches and lovely colors are perfect, but underneath is our authentic self, filled with knots and clip threads and mistakes. And that's our authentic self when you turn the tapestry over.
Yes, in my life story workshops, I always include, there's a poem about that, and I always include that poem.
I would love to know it.
The author's unknown.
Is it on your blog?
No. I should put it on. I need to put it on there. I will, you know what? I'm going to make a note to put that on there. So yeah.
Put that on there. Yes. And exchange information.
I will, if I send it to Marty, maybe she can get it to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Please. And you please send it to me. I am saving the chat, and I'll do a recap and send anything along. So I was just wondering if, yes, website for Teresa is the Tapestry Life Stories. Exactly. So Lisa, will you come up next?
Yes.
Yes. All right.
Hi.
Wonderful.
Hi.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I know we probably all have hundreds of objects and thousands of stories that we could talk about. When you mentioned this opportunity, I immediately thought of an object that I haven't looked at for so long. It's really precious to me, and it's in my hand. I'm not going to show you what it is yet, but first I'll tell you a little background, a little story. When I was little, I loved little things, and I loved looking in places where I wasn't supposed to look in my home. There were things that I thought they were kept hidden away for special reasons. I knew they were there. They gave me pleasure to look at. And I didn't realize that until I was thinking about tonight that I was kind of a sneaky kid. But when my parents weren't around, for example, I would go into my mother's where she had a desk drawer, and it was filled with photographs. And I love them. As much as I love looking at photos now, I love looking at her photos of her family when she was a little girl, and also photos that I hadn't seen of my brother and I. Now, maybe I was 7 or 8 or 9 years old, but I didn't realize I was a little kid. I was looking at pictures of my brother and I when we were babies, and my mother didn't want me to look at the photos when she wasn't around. I think she thought I might mess them up or rip them, and they were precious to her. But when she wasn't around, I'd look at them and I, try to get them back in the drawer in the same order that they were in when I opened the drawer. And I also looked in her drawer that had jewelry. So there were little boxes of, flip open a box and there was a ring, and another box and there was a bracelet. But my dad also had a jewel case. And my dad was, my favorite person in the whole world. And I think everything he touched was special to me. And one of those special things is in my hand right now. So in his case, there were cufflinks and with, stone cufflinks that my mother gave to him, which I thought were beautiful, and a few other things. And this one object that also had a counterpart, a kind of sibling counterpart. I knew one would someday come to me, and the other would go to my brother. I talked to my brother 2 nights ago. We couldn't remember when either of us got our items, but they are dear to us. And I think what's interesting is that sometimes we love an object just because someone we loved had it and held it, and maybe it was dear to them. So before I show it to you, I will tell you I have some special things in my home. For example, if you were to open my medicine cabinet, there are a few things in there that you might expect, like, lipstick and a hair comb. But there are also, stones and rocks from hiking trips to Zion National Park and to, the Grand Canyon and to Mexico. And if you open my cookie jar, what's in there are sand dollars from all the trips I ever took and went to a beach and collected little sand dollars. So I do have special places where I hide things, although no one's ever going to go into them. But this one special thing that I have, which is from my dad, it's a marble. I don't know if you can see this. It's blue, and my brother's is red. And the interesting thing is there's a band around it, and it says, "Do unto others as you would have them do unto you." What's so interesting to me about this is that I never really thought about the saying, but today when I was thinking about this talk, I was thinking about how sneaky I am, or I used to be, maybe I still am. I certainly would not want someone sneaking around my place looking for things. I just think it's ironic that this marble, which says, "Do unto others as you would have them do unto you," is one of my cherished possessions. That's my story.
Oh, thank you so much, Lisa. So Lisa is a newish member to the Photo Managers, and I'm grateful to Faith for connecting, for inviting Lisa to be a part of we almost did, I think we did actually pretty much a year worth of weekly book club meetings for the book that I mentioned earlier, What We Keep. And Lisa has been on the last couple of months, and it's been a delight. So I love that. And I'm like, how did they, like, my first thing is, how did they put all those words on that little marble?
They're here. I mean,
I'm like, how did that happen?
it's beautiful. It's an engraving on like a gold band. I don't know.
It's
magic.
Wonderful. Magic. It is magic. Well, thank you. And Lisa also does magic. Her focus is on pet stories, animal and pet stories. That's her passion, as you can see. And definitely, at least, please put into, I didn't see this. We'll see that at the next one, the full thing. That's beautiful. Please put your contact information in the chat as well. If you have a cherished pet or know somebody who does, I've done a few of those, but it's not my forte per se. But anyway, Lisa is an artist and a legacy pro. So when Lisa was just talking about the stories that get attached to things that our loved ones have given to us or they left behind when they died, it made me remember that I am also part of a wonderful organization called Let's Reimagine. And it's Let's Reimagine End of Life, but it really is more about reimagining life and how we, if we know. I was just listening to the Minimalists podcast recently, and it was they were interviewing a guy who has a book called Things That Matter. And he started his little audio book reading about this woman who interviewed people at the end of their lives during hospice, and their ability to like reflect on their life when their death was imminent, was soon in their sights. Anyway, I feel that the beauty of Let's Reimagine, which I'm putting in the chat right now, is that they're all about like rethinking life and how we can do it so that we can have, as a good friend of mine calls, a good death. So anyway, thank you, Lisa, for that story. And I know I invited a couple of people up, but I don't know if I got their information back. But I'm wondering if Whitney, if you're able to come up next.
I'm here, Marty.
Well, fantastic. So I got a chance to meet Whitney in person, internet friends are real friends, hashtag. And I wanted to say that I got a chance to see her in Austin. We did a little mini show and tell there, a little pop-up show and tell, and it was delightful to meet her in person. She is also someone from my personal historian world. She is also a legacy filmmaker, a legacy artist, and I am delighted to have her share the story of the things she keeps.
Thanks, Marty. Thank you for inviting me to participate. And again, my name is Whitney, and yes, I have a legacy film business in Austin. And in short, about me, I believe in people and I believe in their stories, and I believe that our stories and sharing them can make a better world. Clinton Habe, hi Clinton, is just down the road from me in San Antonio, and he's been in business a lot longer, and I'm just starting out on this journey of catching and capturing and caring for people's stories in a formal kind of way. And so I look to people like Clinton and to Marty and to many of you on here in just the ways that you're doing this important work. Marty, I want to say to you that I'm so inspired by your skill of being able to create community. And I'm very proud to be part of this event tonight. So down here in Texas, we like to go big. So my item is a big piece of art. Can y'all see that?
Yes.
Big piece of art. And I'll show my face here in just a second. This is a print by an Austin artist, Mary Doer. Mary Doer is 82 years old, or 87 years old. She's been in Austin for 82 years. And she creates art, is kind of well known for her art of Texas hill country landscapes. And that picture that you just saw is a favorite piece of mine. It's a picture of the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center, which is near my home. And if you ever come to Austin, I encourage you to visit the Lady Bird Johnson Wildflower Center. And I'm sorry if you couldn't see the art super great. I had a different setup, but Marty, it's not letting me log in on my other computer because it said I was locked out because I only logged in once. But why I picked this item to share with you all for what brings me meaning and purpose and magic, I guess. This was a gift from my husband when we first started dating, and we're going to celebrate our 20th wedding anniversary tomorrow. So I'm feeling extra sentimental about that time in our lives and why this is significant to me. It speaks of history to me. It speaks of art. It speaks of stories and love and nature and natural beauty. And I cherish this piece of art, and I've cherished the person who gave it to me. And just there's layers of significance for me. And Marty, you invited us to share as something significant to us. So this just kind of has layers of significance for me, especially this week. And I think local art is really cool, and want to gather more pieces of that in my home. We have a couple pieces from local artists, and I love collecting their work and supporting their work. So that's me, Whitney Myers.
Thank you so much, Whitney. So
thank you, Marty.
Yes, Austin, I have about 25 friends and family there. I'm grateful to now have both, have more people in the Austin area. So Whitney, please go ahead and put in your information, your contact information. And I want to bring up next Melissa. I'm like, wow, everything seemed to be going really slowly in the beginning, and then all of a sudden it's like sped up, it feels like. So anyway, I am going to bring up Sharon because her family's waiting for dinner. So Sharon Wonder, you're a wonder, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, and sorry, but
no problem.
It's important.
Sorry.
You don't have to be the one cooking, right?
Yes.
Very excited to see what they've got downstairs. But I keep getting these texts, so I just wanted to show. I don't know if Marty has a book. This is the book we were enjoying for the last year, and I think Marty in Denver, you came home with a special treasure, right? Yeah. Lucky you. Do you have it?
Is Karen still here?
There you go.
Karen, see, oh, I should turn it this way. All right, next to Brooklyn.
Very nice.
Yes.
When we first joined the summer program last year, and I met Cathi and some other lovelies, I'm so glad that Lisa's there now too. I shared with them that I have a fun little signature here from Dennis, from Bill Shapiro. And what I figured out was that Dennis, it says in here, Dennis, without you, this book isn't this book. Thank you and keep the faith. And we were all excited. We were like, we want to tell Bill all about this. And then I realized as we were reading, we were talking about this certain article on page 17. And this is Dennis. He is the cultural historian Jack Kerouac's biographer in San Francisco, California. And he talks about a Greek coin. So I realized we can never tell Bill this. Shh, don't ever tell Bill, because he's going to be so sad to find out that Dennis, who got to be published, donated his book. I bought it used. So I think that's funny.
You know what? He wouldn't be.
No.
He would not be at all, because he's also someone who totally believes in enjoying something and then passing it on to somebody else, just like Karen and Marty did with Lusty.
Second love repurposed. So
exactly.
Yeah. So I'm not going to show my object quite yet. I have to do a little setting. So when we first met, the other thing that I always shared was I was obstinate that I don't have a specific object. There is no specific object. I am not attached to objects. And then I realized how attached I really am. So this one, the joy in this one is that feeling is kind of how Peter approached it of, it's a meditation for me. I found how I can meditate. You know, so many different people do it in different ways. And when I was in second grade, I figured out, it probably took me to my 30s, 40s to realize this was actually a meditation for me. But that when I paint, I go into totally a zone and clarity comes and it's just lovely. And so in second grade, I was given the opportunity as the youngest child to be alone for the night and take care of myself for the first time. My parents went to PTA, I think it was probably teacher conferences. And they said, have at it, here's dinner. I was so excited, had full pizza. And I sat down with all my tools and I started to paint. It was in a magazine. I can still see the picture. It's this gorgeous, lush, Better Homes and Gardens magazine. It's an advertisement for furniture. And I think the whole 2 hours I was in there painting and I was so proud of it. And parents came home and they told me all about conferences. They seemed like things were fine. So I think we were okay with the teachers. And she saw the artwork and she was so excited about it that she invested in a frame and she put it up. And so this is what it looks like. And we're on screen share, right?
Yeah.
So if I go to desktop and I come up here, I've got it all set up right here. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Perfect. So this is oops, gotta get you guys away. This is the picture. And doesn't it look like an amazing piece of artwork? For me, it was. And for me, there were a bunch of layers and depths and tonal changes. The reason why this became so flat, granted also second grade, and I'm learning perspective, but my mom invested it, framed it, and where did she put it? She put it up on top of the toilet in my parents' guest bathroom. So my father, for the next, I think I figured out, the next 30 years, used that bathroom every morning and got to stare at that beautiful piece of artwork. And the sun came in and it dulled it. But I know for a fact that it mentored me and supported me throughout the years to be able to be the artist that I am today. And there, if I get rid of that, am I back? Did I lose you?
No, I got you. There you go.
Too many things at once. But that's the joy of the magic of it, was that toilet, like why would my mom decide? And who in these days now, how often we have quick gratification, do we redesign, switch and change? But my mom chose and was okay for 30 years to have that piece of artwork above the toilet. And so for the meaning for me was that connection of that our parents totally support us and mentor us and show us things to keep us on our path and find our purpose. And sometimes they realize it, sometimes they don't. But I love the fact that my mom was available. She always said she wasn't a creative, and she raised 3 of the 4 of us to be creative. So I just love the fact that I'm able to still remember how rich and deep this picture was to me, even though it looks like that now. But and it came back into my life at the end of last year. I had forgotten that somebody might still have it because we've moved and such. And my sister brought it to me, and I was so excited to see it again. And I didn't realize until I held it that, oh, I've got to tell Marty, I did find an object. So thank you for having me. Okay, I'm gonna go eat. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Sharon. Always a pleasure to see you. It was great to see you in person. Get a hug. Have a good meal, and we'll see you next time. All right, so I think that we have, I'm trying to send information ahead of time. I think Melissa McPherson, if you're able to, I'm trying to shoot private things asking if you'd come up, but will you go next?
Yeah,
No.
I'm here. I'll try to be fast.
Awesome.
'Cause my kids are gonna come home soon and they're kind
Okay.
of loud.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll share the object first so you can see it.
Okay.
Because I actually just
Awesome.
have a picture of it.
Awesome.
So I share screen, right?
Yes.
And okay. Let's see. View, enter full screen. Okay, here's what this is. This is a diploma. It's a framed diploma. It's my third great grandfather's medical diploma from the Transylvania Medical College in Lexington, Kentucky. And it's from the year 1844. And I didn't know about this object until, pretty recently. So a little bit of backstory. I have my dad, we have nothing in common. We're very similar. Our personalities are similar. I love my dad, but for 35 years, I had nothing in common with my dad. It was hard, like just no overlap. Also, I didn't know much about his side of the family, especially his dad's side. So that's how we're related to Thomas, Dr. Thomas. I knew that it was just him, my grandpa and my dad. All of his siblings had passed away. They had a hard life. They were from Texas. They migrated out to California during like the Dust Bowl times. They're just a hard life, kind of wild, not a lot of information there. So fast forward, it's 2017. We have reason to believe we've met one of my dad's half sisters that we didn't know about in the 90s. But we're going through some papers. We have reason to believe there could be more. So we both take ancestry DNA tests. And, we get our results back and some are interesting, but we don't really know how to interpret any of this because there's like a learning curve for that. So while we're trying to learn how to do all that stuff, we start researching his side of the family. And we come across Thomas and his second wife, Frances, and we just become obsessed. So my dad and I finally have this common ground and it's just so much fun, like so much fun. So Thomas, he died in the Civil War. We were trying to track him down. He moved all over, like all this stuff. And so on Ancestry, you can post this information that you find to their profiles. So we're posting all this stuff that we find and a woman messages, like posts like, oh, I have his medical diploma. And we're like, oh, this is cool. Like more information to this mysterious man that we are obsessed with in time. And so my dad messages her, no luck. And then after a couple of weeks, he's like, Melissa, you try. So I message her and for whatever reason, she talks to me and her great grandpa and my dad's great grandpa are the same man, the son of Dr. Thomas. But she's like a whole generation older. So she just isn't into technology. And so I talked to her on the phone and she tells me a lot of stuff we didn't know about that side of the family. And that was really cool. And then I was like, well, the diploma, like, do you actually have this diploma? Like, can I see a picture of it? And she's like, oh yeah, it's in my closet, but I don't know how to digitize it and get it to you. And I was like, so she's talking on her landline. And I was like, do you have a cell phone? And she says, yeah, my daughter texts me on that thing. And I was like, well, you can just take a picture of it, and you can text it to me. So this is the picture. It's the first picture she ever texted to anybody, and it got to be me. So I think that's like super cute. And this document opened up so many doors for our research because we didn't know he was a doctor. We didn't know he was in Kentucky. So it gave us all these new places to look. And yeah, oh, and so now like I talk to her quite often. She's in her 80s. And she says she's going to have her daughter mail this diploma to me when she dies. And I would be very grateful to have it. That's definitely not why I talked to her, but if she does give it to me, I'm going to give it to my dad. But just the pursuit of this, and then all of the family members were able to find that we didn't really know we had. And then just the relationships we've made, and then just finally finding a way to connect with my father has just been such a blessing in my life. So I'm very grateful for this obscure document and the connections.
Oh, so yes, like Nancy said, the fonts are beautiful. So many of these documents were just so gorgeous. Yes. So, thank you, Melissa. That was wonderful. And I'm so excited about getting a chance to see you when I'm out in the LA area, because you're also out there with Peter and my friend Tilly and my friend Melissa, who's here, and a bunch of other people. But I know we're running a little late, but we have 3 more story sharers. So if you are able to stay with us, please do. Obviously, it's going to be recorded, and there'll be an opportunity to listen to the rest of it if you can't stay. I know there are people who need food and take care of friends, the family, all of that stuff. But anyway, next up is Faith, then Cathi, and then we'll finish up with my friend Melissa from Vermont. So Faith, will you take it away? And I don't think I need to make an introduction. She is from our very own, the photo managers. And she and Cathi have been my tried and true What We Keep book club members who have been religiously showing up on Sunday afternoons to talk about the fabulous book that Bill and Naomi wrote. So take it away, Faith.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. So what I brought tonight, hopefully it won't fall apart before I get to show it, is it's a painting. Oops. That my Aunt Pauline did, probably in the late 80s, maybe early 90s. And it's of my grandparents' house in Chipman, New Brunswick. And it was a place that I used to go to as a child, and it was a couple of hours away from where I live. So it was kind of a special treat to go up there and spend time with them. And I know when, for other people looking at the picture, they just see like this plain white house and a long driveway and a mailbox in the front and some trees. But for me, when I look at this house, I can go in the door and I can go through the house and I can just start to bring up all of these different memories that I have. And one of them, so I thought I would share 3 different memories that I have from that time of being a kid. So one of them was in the kitchen. One of the cupboards, my grandmother did a lot of baking. So she was always making homemade bread. And so she had this one cupboard that when you opened it up, it had kind of a circular wooden piece that was filled with flour. So it was close to the counter, so she didn't have to go very far. She could just keep that open and dip into it and do her bread or whatever she was making. Anyways, when no one was around, I used to like to open it up and put my arm in it because the flour was so nice and fluffy and it just felt so good and silky on my arm. Anyways, it did not go over well. And I know that I was told numerous times not to do that. And I know that now I would be horrified if some kid was doing that to the flour, that I was going to be eating that bread later. But anyways, what I learned was to make sure not to get caught. That was the lesson I learned as a young child. So the other thing was that, as I said, my grandmother used to like to, she always had homemade bread, which now I would die to have some of her homemade bread and strawberry jam. But on for breakfast, I'd have, some bread and some jam, and I'd be sitting with my grandfather having breakfast. And I could hear my grandmother in the other room saying to him to make sure that I ate the crust, not to let me get away from the table without eating the crust, because I didn't mind the bottom crust, but I never liked the top crust. I don't know why. And I still don't even really like the top crust. But so my grandfather knew that, and he'd let me eat the bottom in the middle and stuff, and I would leave the crust. And he just kind of pulled his hand out. And so I knew I could put that crust in his hand. And they had a wood stove. So he would go over to the wood stove and he'd take there was like I don't know, I don't know what you call it, a piece that you would take and you put into the little plate, you take it off and it opened to where the fire was. And so he'd just drop those in there, and then he'd turn around and he'd just go. So I knew that my secret, I'm not eating the top crust of that bread, was safe with him. And the other thing that we used to do is we go out to the driveway, which to me seemed like such a long driveway as a kid. And he'd take some seeds, or I don't know, maybe some of the bread actually. And we go to the driveway and he'd get down kind of not on his knees, but down low. And he'd make kind of a clicking sound in his cheek. And he'd hold the seeds out or whatever he had. And this little chipmunk used to come and he'd feed the chipmunk. And it was just like, to me as a kid from the city, it was like magic to see my grandfather, be able to feed this little animal. And then once he felt that the chipmunk had gotten enough to eat, then he'd stand up and then he'd stomp his foot, and the little chipmunk would just scurry all the way down the driveway and back down its hole until like the next morning when it came out to feed again. So anyways, like I said, when other people look at this painting, they may just see this white house. But when I look at this painting, it just brings so much love, that, these memories that I remember as a kid. And yeah, when my aunt had painted it and had asked me if I would like to have this painting, I was just like so thrilled to have it, because it just brought so many memories back for me. So that's, and just one added part was that I was going to, I had thought about getting it reframed, because it just has sort of a plain wooden frame on it. And when I had mentioned it to my cousin, she had told me that her father, my uncle, had made the frame. So then I realized, you know what? That's the frame that needs to stay on that, because I knew that my uncle had done that with love, to put on my aunt's picture. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Oh my God. Wow. In your little space, we've talked about our little homes, our little spaces, me and my little RV named Brooklyn. There's a picture behind me there. And you in your little condo space. And it's still an amazing thing how many wonderful objects you still have that tell your story. And
yeah, actually it is, because I do have a lot of things, even though I have, I think I have like 425 square feet. So
But you've curated your life so that everything around you has a story.
yes.
So, or a purpose, right? It's like, so that's, it's possible to do it in 425 square feet or 21 feet long. I don't know how many square feet Brooklyn is, but it's possible to do that. So thank you so much. And thank you for sharing your story again with us. And I love you're a great storyteller. And please do, Faith is also a photo manager, and she's out of Toronto. And she also is an avid reader and a author groupie. And and she is going to be writing a book about the stories of the things that she keeps. And because she's been doing that as part of our book club. And I look forward to continuing that, learning more about it. So speaking of book clubs, I know that Cathi is oh, my mom's here. Hi, Mom, this is late for you. Margot Hickey, wave everybody, that's my mom. And like somebody Sharon was talking about, who's not on anymore at this moment, that I am so grateful. She's been my #1 cheerleader during this crazy experience of entrepreneurship. So, but Cathi Stone is also one of our regulars at the book club, and so she's going to come up. She's also a photo manager. Many of you know her. No need to really make an introduction, but she is in Calgary, Canada. And keep in mind, part of the reason why I had 2 Canadians as consistent people who showed up every Sunday is because it was hell up there during COVID. And they were stuck. But I think they liked me too. And they definitely liked Bill Shapiro's book and Naomi's book. So anyway, without further ado, I am going to pass it on to you, Cathi. Take it away.
Thanks so much, Marty. And again, it was not horrible up here, but we were locked down really a long time. Faith even longer. I think Faith might still be locked down, but so we did. Hanging out with Marty and the rest of the book club was one of the things through the pandemic that saved my sanity, I think, and also taught me the importance of identifying objects that are important to me and what they are. I'm lucky. I still live in the big house. My kids are 25 now. I have those twins too. One of them, actually, good thing we have a big house, because he's been home since COVID started from the US. So he's been here for over, I think we're up to the 2 or I don't know how many years it is anymore. 2 years, I guess, is all. So it's good to have a big house, but I'm gradually thinking about, I need to downsize, and I need to tell people what is of the things that are in here, what are important and why, and what isn't important, because I kind of like to collect things too. So I have some old things related to photography that have nothing to do with my family. They're here. They can go in the garbage. They can be sold. I just thought they were cool, and I wanted some props for photos and things. So, but there's things that I have that are very important. And I think the first show and tales that I did with Marty made me think really hard about, what do my children know, and how important is it that they know why things are hanging around. So the object I picked today, and I didn't prepare very well, but here we'll go. I hope we can see it. So this is a carbiner, for those of you who hike and everything. And it attaches very well with the screw. And this carbiner and the 2 objects attached to it used to live in my purse. Now they live in the backpack I carry all the time. So what's on here is the first object is something my get up there. There we go. Hard to show. Is something my grandfather made. There's a horseshoe.
Yep.
A large cross, and a little teeny tiny cross.
Oh, yes.
And so my grandfather was a coal miner from England who came to Canada in 1929 to become a farmer. So at some point he must have learned how to do this metal work. I have a larger horseshoe too. And I'm guessing he probably made the horseshoes for his horses. But I don't know much more about the story other than I know Grandpa made these, and I know my mom carried them around in her purse. My grandpa passed away in 1985, and I'll go right up front. I was in my mid-20s then, and I didn't care about that, that stuff. It was like, yeah, not that I didn't care about Grandpa passing, but I didn't care about what that stuff was. Now I really care, and I wish I could ask somebody, how did he figure out how to make this stuff? So once my mom passed away, I put that object into my purse or backpack on a carbiner, because when it's attached to a loop inside my purse, it's not getting lost. It's staying there. Now, the second object I have on here, and if there's any accountants in the group, you'll know what this is. And if you know much more about it, please let me know. I've been Googling away on it. This is called a ledger key. And if you Google ledger key, you get all, Ledger apparently makes USB keys now. So I see 100 pictures of USBs. And I'm like, nope, that's not what I have. And I know it's a ledger key. And what it did was, my mother was a bookkeeper, pretty much self-taught. She didn't even finish high school until her and I graduated from high school at the same time, when she went back and got her diploma. So she was a single parent who raised me for most of her life alone. So she's a brilliant woman. And I think my grandfather was a pretty brilliant guy to have figured out how to make this stuff.
I know.
On the farm. And there's a bunch of different things. So the significance of these, so my mom passed away on April 30th in 2008. My grandfather died of Alzheimer's, and my mother passed away from Lewy body dementia. So the last years of their lives were not the type of, I do remember them, but they're not the kind of stories that you want to think about. But what these remind me of, and what makes them meaningful to me, is they remind me of that intelligent woman who basically learned how to keep books to the point of running her own accounting business before she retired, and of my grandfather, the coal miner, who came from England right before the Great Depression, because that's the best time to start farming, into the Dust Bowl times, and who basically figured out how to farm all on his own. That both of them were so much more than what they were at the end of their lives. So that's why this will always stay in my backpack now, and always reminds me about the strength that they carried, and helps me get through. They got through a lot of tough things, and it helps me to hang on to these and get through tough things in my life. So, but I owe this all to Marty, and for starting the book club on Bill's book, and keeping us going. And it's shifted my my focus as a photo manager quite a bit to what's really important behind photos, behind objects that we keep, is the stories. And if without the stories, stuff's just stuff. And I think that's the link for deciding what we keep, as Bill would say, and what we can just get rid of. And same with photos. And that's what I think Marty's brought to us as photo managers, and definitely has brought to me. So thank you, Marty, very much.
Oh, thank you so much, Cathi. I really appreciate that. It's what Bill has brought to me, and then also Matt Paxton, who has a wonderful book out called, Keep the Stories, Lose the Stuff. And the minimalists, I've talked about them as well. The things that matter, but we all, as photo managers, have and personal historians for sure, who, if anyone is still here from personal historians, have always had reactions from clients saying, or potential clients saying, oh, my kids aren't going to want any of this stuff, right? But what I've tried to carefully respond to people with is the fact that they don't want it like this. They don't want the photos or the film or the objects or the house full of whatever without some ability, some investment on your part or a professional's part to curate, to edit and curate the collection. So, and tell the stories of the things. So if it's just the things, just the photos, just the things by themselves, most people are going to get overwhelmed with it, that your offspring or your future, the future in your lineage or family or friends aren't going to know what it's about. And so they're not going to hold on to it because it's not going to make any sense. So I want to welcome to the stage, so to speak, our last story sharer, who actually has a house full of stories, because she is one of those people who many of us either have as clients or we started down the road of photo management because we were the family repository of all the historic stuff of our family and our family's family and our husbands or significant others' families. So we've just gotten a huge collection. And thankfully, Melissa didn't get overwhelmed with it. I mean, I think she gets a little overwhelmed on occasion, but she has showed up and is taking on this charge and doing an amazing job with it. And she is absolutely new to the photo managers. And I've been talking with her for a long time about becoming a member. And she's joined us for this snapshot pass. We're going to be seeing more of her for sure, but I'm going to let her take it away and finish us out. Thank you, Melissa.
Well, thank you for letting me participate in this. I really appreciate it. And Marty knows that I can't just bring one thing. I always bring a collection because I am the keeper of the things in my family, and I've inherited multiple generations worth of stuff. But my objects for this are these very old toys from 1900, 1901. From a baby named Mary Bruce Hunt, her rattles, her silver teething, and her christening cup. So this is the story of Mary Bruce Hunt, and she was dubbed the Little Angel. She was born in Sistersville, West Virginia in September of 1900 to Alexander Bruce and Mary Kellogg Hunt. That's how she got her name, Mary Bruce. Bruce was an attorney, and they doted on this beautiful little girl. This is her christening photos. Gorgeous. We actually still have the christening gown. I was christened in it. All of my, everybody in the family has been. And so these are her toys. But unfortunately, it's a pretty tragic story. She passed away at only 18 months old. And shortly after her funeral, her devastated parents moved back to their hometown, Roanoke, Virginia, where they had 5 more children, the last of which was Robert, my grandfather. His mother, Mary, died only 6 months after he was born. And his whole life, he wondered about his poor sister, Mary Bruce, the sister he never knew. So Robert grew up to be an Episcopal priest, and everyone, even family members, called him Father Bob. I still call him Father Bob. In 1969-ish, he received a small trunk full of Mary Bruce's baby clothes and a few of these toys from his sister, Emma Mebane. And this got him wondering about his eldest sister. So at age 55, he reached out to the church in Sistersville where her funeral had been held and asked if they had any records or any more information about her. Well, to his astonishment, they did. And not only had the beautiful brass pulpit in the church been given in her memory by her parents, complete with an inscription, but there was also an elderly woman in the congregation who actually knew the family. I mean, this baby died in 1902, and Father Bob found somebody who was a child at the time and knew the family and knew this baby, and remembered meeting her and grieving her death. And this woman wrote a long letter to my grandfather recounting the story of the little angel and how she always put flowers on Mary Bruce's grave and poinsettias by the pulpit every Christmas, and lilies every Easter throughout her teenage and childhood and teenage years. Instead of making him feel even sadder, this letter from her finally gave him some connection to a part of his family story he had never known before. And he wrote back a wonderful letter to her sharing his own experience. In 1971, my Father Bob and Honey, my grandmother, went to Sistersville, and he was honored to give the sermon from that beautiful pulpit that his parents had given in his big sister's memory. And he put flowers on her grave. It all came full circle for him. So a few years later, Father Bob gave the toy collection to my mother, and she became inspired to become a professional hoarder, starting with antique toys. And she ended up with hundreds more, but always this collection was in a place of honor in the big display cabinet in our house. And when I was a little girl, she told me a short version of the story, and let me carefully look at them, and never actually play with them, of course, but it was always with very deep reverence. So Mom died in April of 2020, and like so many others who have come to this profession in this manner, not having anybody to ask the questions anymore, I'm going through my mom's family history stuff. She inherited all the stuff from my grandfather, trunks and trunks of stuff, and also my Uncle Bob, who got all the copies. So I got everybody's stuff. So
it's wonderful. You're lucky to have that gem.
I am. I really am.
I know you know that, but it's
my birthday. Yeah. So, yeah, I had just boxes, moving boxes stacked up on top of each other in this house for years and years and years. But on my birthday weekend this year, I decided to consolidate all of the papers. And in doing that, I found, I was astonished to find all the letters that Father Bob had sent and received from all the people in Sistersville in their originals in their own handwriting, and including pictures they sent to him of the pulpits.
Oh my God.
That right there is where her inscription is. That's the pulpit he preached at. And then this is her grave.
Oh,
a color Polaroid from the early 1970s. And it's just amazing to have this collection now. And I never knew any of the details of this tragic story until I read these letters last month. And so now I've scanned them all, digitized them, I've transcribed them, and and sharing it with all my family members. Learning this has sparked, I was already interested in doing this kind of work for people, scanning photos, about this, Marty. I scanned 20,000 photos of my own over the past 2 years, and then finding all of these documents. I also found documents of our family history going back to the original Robert Hunt at Jamestown in 1607. We're evidently descended from him, and I think I found the link. Everybody's been looking for it all these years. But anyway, so learning all of this has really sparked a passion for me about putting puzzle pieces like this together for other families too. So that's my story.
Oh my God. You're a perfect example of what I've always said about there is no such thing as history without personal history. there's such this like divide between history and personal history in education, when I think that the key to actually getting children interested and involved and hooked in it is this exact thing. Like, when people like, that's how I started Show and Tell. When people like, I'm like, oh, there's storytelling events, and people are like, you can't bring a prop, and you can't read from anything, and you can't do, and I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, I have Civil War diaries, and I'm like, I have, all these things that I've come across in my clients, collections. And I'm like, why can't people bring this stuff and tell their stories? So, yeah. So anyway, you are like, and you should see the amount of toys. That is just a small amount, because like Melissa ended up sharing, I have had her do some digitizing for a really good friend of mine from high school. Her mom passed away, and we took the photos and got them digitized. And I'm grateful to that. And I've been at Melissa's house in Vermont, close to where my one of my home bases is in Vermont, and it is full. And she ain't kidding when she talks about being a professional hoarder. But she hoarded amazing things. So yeah,
I got to share my moment of triumph. I actually emptied out over at least 8 moving boxes when I was consolidating everything. And I found some empty file cabinet space that I had forgotten about in the back of a closet. And so it's all organized and filed now, and in folders with labels on it. I can't believe it.
You're amazing. You're amazing. So I know that it is way past time, but I thank you so much, Melissa. That was a wonderful way to end us in the storytelling. And I do want to say that I've been doing this for 10 years, hosting them online and in person. And now, thankfully, we'll be doing a few more in person, thanks to, I hope, an adjustment in COVID cases. But I wanted to say that I have found that hosting events where you invite people to bring their photos and their objects as a way to connect is a wonderful way to get to be known, like remembered.
Photographic version of Antiques Roadshow.
Yeah, exactly. So it is, it's a simple way to build connections. And so if you would like to host your own story sharing event, I have started a membership community, and Melissa will pop that in a minute maybe, but I also have a worksheet, basically. I call them play sheets, but it's a work back schedule that is called the Show and Tell Event Planner. So a lot of personal historians, people that you met tonight, they, from the Association of Personal Historians, ended up starting to host their own events as a way to market themselves. So if you have a small business and you're looking for a unique way to market your service, your legacy work, a way to market it that feels good and does good, grab the event planner that I put in first, and then Melissa ended up dropping in my community webpage. I would love to talk with you about how hosting these events can be a way that you market yourself. So please feel free to reach out. And I thank you so much. My next event that is coming up, my virtual event, is going to be happening May 26th, and it's specifically about pets. So it's Show and Tell, tails, paws, beaks, and claws. So it's anything about, needless to say, any pet has one of those things. And needless to say, my mom is the reason why I have a deep connection to animals. She always, animals came first. My brother and I tried not to take it personally, but She loves the animals. People, yeah. But she definitely connected me to my love, my equal love of having animals. And one last thing before we sign off, I'm going to have to take off my Brooklyn. This is Brooklyn, my little RV, but I am going to take off my background so you can see. So I am in a hotel, a historic hotel here in El Paso. It's called the Gardner Hotel. And it just so happened to literally be in the same block of 5 gay bars. I went out yesterday and I literally walked around the corner to find a place to eat and a place to get a whiskey. And there was the toolbox. So anyway, it's a great place, but this is my pet, my tails, paws, beaks, and claws. I will be talking about Flatsy because everybody thought that I should have a travel companion as I travel around in Brooklyn. And I realized I just couldn't, I couldn't do it. I couldn't have a living thing that I have to be worried about every time I left, every time I went for a walk or a hike or a swim or went and met somebody for dinner or coffee. I just couldn't do it. So anyway, Flatsy is a flat cat and she came from the Blue Q company. And she sits in the window of Brooklyn. And as my friend told you, I got this from Karen and from her husband, Marty, in Denver when I was there. So this is Bugsy. And so we've got Flatsy and Bugsy coming along on my trip. And you'll hear more about that at the event on the 26th. So thank you so much. Oh, and Mom, you're getting a message from Cheryl. I don't know if my mom's used to getting direct messages, but
that's why I sent it to you too.
Okay, so Cheryl, we've been talking about you, Mom. You need to come and join us at the Get Set Up Our Stuff, Our Stories event. That happens every other week. So
I could pick your mother out of a crowd.
Thank you so much, Nancy.
Are identical.
I know, aren't we? We have been called sisters. They're like, oh, that's your sister? So yes, I am lucky. Thank you, Nancy, for yes, and Nancy's holding up the book. Yes, thank you so much for Bugsy. And I hope to see you when I'm out in California.
Yeah, come to Wisconsin.
Wisconsin?
Yes.
That's where you are now. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have to follow that up. So anyway, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for staying on so long. It's been a delight.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of your evening. I'm off to the toolbox. No, I don't know where I am, but I'm off. Have a great evening. Bye, Mom. Love you. Peace.
Thanks, Marty.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening. Thanks, Melissa. I'll get you this recording soon. Be well, everyone. Bye. Thanks, Kathy. Thank you so much. Take good care, everybody. Be well. Good night. Okay.